Welcome to the Documentorial Workshop, where I go over the documented history, significance, and style of genres and artworks throughout the ages, whilst giving a tutorial on how to create works within this area. Today, we are going over the newest star of recent media, known for its gritty splicing of strong flesh and intricate metal, the cyberpunk genre. My goals are the following: provide a detailed history of the works that led up to and are in this genre, to explain the modern day requirements, and give an example that you can follow to create this work on your own as well. Throughout this video, I'll be drawing as I speak in the latter parts of the video, so feel free to skip around the chapters, slow, speed up, or pause the video should you require it. If you need to go frame by frame while you're on a computer, use the comma and period buttons to move between frames. The beginning of the cyberpunk genre is hard to accurately pin, but the consensus is that it begins with a book called Cyberpunk by Bruce Bethke. The main theme is a group of rebellious kids robbing banks using compact pieces of technology called microterms, short for microterminals, and hacking what is called the CityNet, a large citywide electronic network that runs pretty much every single piece of technology within the city. This sets a massive precedent for the literature of the cyberpunk genre, using highly fictitious technology that can be scientifically possible given enough progression of science, such as microterms, which we know as cell phones today. However, due to Bethke's work being only literature, there was no cohesive visual design for such a technology until a few decades later when we were introduced to Blade Runner and Tron, both of which showing smooth, seamless technology that could be easily missed in some areas due to how well it meshes in with the art style in the rest of the world. Blade Runner is notable for the question of if we can make people, are they people, and are we gods, or are we all still human? But Tron is more notable as it introduces artificial intelligence and helps begin the underlying ideas of a virtual space that can be connected directly to the brain. Later, coined as a cyberspace by the novel Burning Chrome by William Gibson. It isn't until William Gibson's next book, Neuromancer, that we get a completed base world of the cyberpunk genre. Rebellious kids fighting the uber-rich megacorporations, a cyberspace, a citywide interconnected electronic network, and artificial intelligence. If you have seen any of the more modern forms of cyberpunk media, you will have a fairly distinct visual image on what this looks like, as both Cyberpunk 2077 and Cyberpunk Edgerunners were built upon all these factors. One more notable thing that I personally find hilarious is how we got the idea of hackers, computers, and sci-fi networks all using the green colors and numbers from the Matrix movies, as it was the biggest plot of a fictitious world within a computer network. Now let's get into the aspects and design of Cyberpunk. One of the best ways to simplify the aesthetics of Cyberpunk is to remember a simple phrase: high-tech lowlifes. The technology of this genre has regressed faster and faster than we can adapt to it in our daily lives. If anyone in the audience is over 30 years old, you can relate to this statement as you've seen the fall of pen pals, landlines, blocky computers, and crank windows in a car. If you're under the age of 30, I apologize, but your adaptation to technology will be a blessing and a curse, as it will evolve much faster than any of us. To begin the art portion, let's begin with a basic human body part, let's say a forearm. We'll start by creating two balls in different positions and drawing two lines to connect these balls. Now we're going to begin the makings of a hand with two trapezoids. The first trapezoid will be the base of the hand, where the thumb connects to the lower half of the palm, and the second one will be the upper half of the palm and the fingers as well. We'll start by drawing two lines out of one of these balls, both facing outward but keeping them short. One of the lines will be a bit further out than the other ones, and that is where the base of the thumb will be. Now draw a line connecting the two together to get the bottom half of the hand. From here, let's double the height of the trapezoid and draw a line right here. We have the fingers connecting here. Use the endpoints on this line to connect to the bottom of the first trapezoid. Now we have a vague outline of a hand to work with. Using three equally spaced lines at the top of the second trapezoid, we can create distinct fingertips of four fingers. Using the wider line of the first trapezoid, we can use a very small line to indicate the base of the thumb, separating the rest of the palm. Bring the three lines from before straight down, stopping 3/4 of the way to the bottom of the second trapezoid. We now have four distinct fingers that we can lengthen and shorten to reveal the middle and little fingers respectively. For people studying anatomy and medicine, these are called the digitus medius for the middle finger, and the digitus minimus manus for the pinky finger. To finish off the thumb, we look at the distance between the fingers we just made, and just make it almost a quarter wider. Just erase here to separate the thumb from the rest of the hand. we now have the basic shapes of a human hand, forearm, wrist, and digits, and now we have to start adding depth. So far, our outline is a fairly basic shape, and I would like to keep the distinction between subtle curves and sharp edges, so we're going to turn the fingers into more square shapes by placing a block on top of them, creating visible fingertips. We then use the top vertex of the box on the outside of our fingers and bring it down towards the palm. Then, repeating that in a similar fashion for the thumb. We will leave the hand here for now, as we are going to work from the elbow back up to the hand to keep it uniform. We come here to the elbow and we begin with having to make a choice. Do we want this to be more organic or more cybernetic? I say, for the sake of learning the general aesthetic for this genre, let's try and turn the base of the elbow into something we can see within the cyberpunk aesthetic. Something more cybernetic. Using the ball that we drew to act as the joint that is the elbow, let's create a more oval shape for the forearm by making a sweeping curve around here, drawing directly over the ball we drew. With this line in place, we now have a base of our forearm, and we can erase part of the ball and use some shading later on to create proper depth to this work. We're going to create two curves from the top of the forearm to the bottom of the hand, and having the two overlap a good amount to create a bit of a cinch that forms the wrist. We'll add a second line here that passes through the wrist to create the appearance of a muscle connecting the two together. Now we are going to add the cybernetic parts of the forearm. Let's loosely mark where the cybernetics will end. Somewhere here near the middle of the forearm. Keep in mind, for the genre of cyberpunk, we aren't looking for just wires and panels, but stuff that replaces a working part of the body with another working part of machinery. Since we are at the elbow, we are going to create something that replaces the muscle inside of the arm. Those muscles are the brachioradialis, pronator teres, flexicarpi radialis, palmaris longus, and flexor carpi ulnaris. I'm going to take some inspiration from a popular choice of cybernetics for the Cyberpunk 2077 game, the gorilla arms. They use thick hydraulics to act as muscles, effectively working as stronger muscles without using any musculature in the first place. A simple glance at an anatomical model of the forearm, and we see that it's a group of muscles that layer over each other, which makes our job a pretty good bit easier. We can simply replace the teres, carpi radialis, longus, and carpi ulnaris with simple tubes. If we create a few lines that almost go parallel with the rest of the forearm, we can create the illusion of the arm being opened. The inside is what we're going to be placing our tubes in, and because we are still sketching and preparing for line art, we're going to make more lines that go from the base of the arm to the wrist, making sure to keep our proportions by adding in a block near the middle. This block allows us to redo the number of tubes we are showing so it's more visibly consistent with the muscles themselves. Make sure your tubes are evenly spaced between them, but are either touching the walls of their shell or spaced further away from it. If you do the first option of letting them touch the walls, it makes it look stronger but more crude despite the shell, almost natural. If you have them spaced apart, it looks cleaner, more sophisticated, and finely tuned. We've done a lot so far. Let's take a step back and review what we've done to make sure we have everything. We have created an outline of a forearm, wrist, and hand. We have created fingers and a thumb. There is a clear cavity in the forearm where the flesh was replaced with machinery. If it looks right to you, congratulations! You just made a basic outline of a cybernetic limb. You can follow this thought process to create an entire body. Try making a cyberpunk character of your own. Next is something you can do on your own, and I highly advise you experiment with it. The step is to either attach it to a body or go further into the details of the arm. You can do anything with it here. So here's what I have done. I decided to keep it connected to a torso bust of a headless character, recreating the arm at a different angle and keeping the design consistent by placing cybernetic designs on core joints, the elbows, and the shoulders. Keeping the placement and usage of these muscles is highly important to sell the fiction of cyberpunk. Whenever you draw, write, or even daydream, I recommend pretending that you are a scientist with government spending at your back. Go crazy, but stay real with it. The main selling point and empathetic narrative of cyberpunk isn't just a normal underdog story. It's an underdog story that got anabolic steroids upgraded by a nuclear event. It's going to be way out of pocket. It's going to be so filled with emotion and rage most of the time, but it doesn't always have to be just rage if you want to go based on emotions. Regardless, from here on, it's in your hands. Cyberpunk is a style I've held close to my heart for a while before its explosion into the mainstream, as it's an idea that allows anyone, and I mean literally anyone, to be a big shot, a name worth knowing, fearing, respecting, mourning, a name that people remember. If you're interested in getting into the cyberpunk genre, I have a few sources I can recommend starting with. For those who are more for TV shows, I recommend Cyberpunk Edge Runners on Netflix. It is a heart-wrenching tale of despair and self-sacrifice for the ones that we love, and how we can lose sight of what is important when we chase a dream. For those who have some dollars to spend and want a longer-term experience with a deeper sense of immersion, I can recommend the predecessor of Edge Runners, Cyberpunk 2077, a game that has plenty of side content and an astounding DLC called Phantom Liberty. 2077 is about $60 to $70 on Steam, but does go on sale for a fair amount. With the holiday season quickly approaching, that would be a good time to get 2077. For those out there who are movie buffs, I can recommend simply watching Tron and the Matrix trilogy. Both are what set the standard for baseline cyberpunk styles. I hope this tutorial has proven helpful, and the documentary of the history of cyberpunk as a genre has been insightful and enlightening. Be sure to leave a comment below if you have info to share or if I got something wrong. Like the video so you can watch again later should you need the help. Click that subscribe button if you want to join me next time as we explore a more intriguing argument against the typical male games, the femme fatale. Have a good one.